In 2010, the iPhone 4 was announced and released with a front-facing camera and the Retina display. The iPhone 4 was the first iPhone to receive such a tremendous redesign with the stainless steel band and the front and back glass panel. It also got a nice camera boost as well as a breakthrough processing boost at the same time. It has been one of a kind cell phone for its time, and we still look back on its design almost 10 years ago. Today I'm going to quickly show you the iPhone 4 in my collection and a quick overview of the phone and how it impacted the cell phone industry. It is one of many phones I have in my collection. It is an iPhone 4 16GB US CDMA running iOS 4.2.8. And fun fact, this iPhone in my hand has never been updated before. More on that later. The iPhone 4 was one of Apple's great redesigns in its product history, and the world never knew there would be such an iPhone Apple would redesign until a few months before it was released to the public. In April of 2010, a guy who worked for Apple was testing out the iPhone 4, which was only a prototype at the time, when he accidentally left it at a bar. When he went back to return to the bar to retrieve the phone, someone by the name of Brian J. Hogan had already taken it and was trying to find the owner of the phone. When he failed to find the owner, he took it upon himself and found out that it was an iPhone that he had never seen before. He quickly realized that it was the new iPhone, and long story short, ended up selling it to Gizmodo for $5,000. Apple then raided Gizmodo's editor Jason Chen's home and took various things that would have potentially had information about this phone in it. By then, people already knew what the iPhone 4 looked like. It was not good for Apple because this product was a completely redesigned phone, and now everyone knows about it already. So when they did announce it in June, it was predictable for things like the design and the exterior features. But Apple did surprise the crowd with mostly everything about the iPhone 4 anyway, so it was a win for them. But people quickly realized how the white iPhone would have to be reconsidered because of the color yellowing over time. So when Apple did release the iPhone 4 in white, people rushed to get their hands on one as well as to utilize the features that were released in February of 2011. It took a while for Apple to get the iPhone 4 perfect, but it was such a great iPhone that everyone loved anyway. So here I have the iPhone 4 right here in white, and it has Verizon running as the carrier on this phone. As we turn it on, you see the slide to unlock that doesn't have the camera slider because that didn't come until iOS 5. Another way of distinguishing from iOS 4 to other versions is that iOS 4 was the last version to have the music app called iPod on the phone. It is also the last version of iOS where you plug it into your computer to set up. As you can see, you have a Retina display, which was revolutionary because according to Apple, you couldn't see any pixels with holding it at a certain distance away from you. The color was also very accurate and didn't invert when looking at it from an angle like the previous iPhones have done. Now, my exposure on my camera is a little high, so the colors don't look as good, but in person, obviously, it looks pretty good. So Apple did get rid of the plastic back because it would scratch so easily, and there was almost no way to protect it from scratches other than to get a case. But with the iPhone 4, you had a glass back, and that was more resistant to scratches, but it did crack easily if you dropped the phone face up. Also, at least for the CDMA iPhone 4s in the US, that model didn't require to have the FCC labels and all of that stuff that's used on every iPhone 4. But with the 4S, Apple did have to put the FCC labels back on there. Luckily, there are screen protectors for the back of the iPhone 4 that you can still buy for dirt cheap on eBay. Coming back to my iPhone 4 here, I got this iPhone 4 back in November of 2019 for a total of $117 including shipping. So a few reasons why I purchased it. It's running iOS 4, has never been updated, and is in mint condition. As a side note, the ports look clean as they are all white as well as the phone. The eBay listing shows the serial number of the phone, and at the time when I bought it but it hadn't arrived, I looked up the serial number on a serial number lookup website and found out that this iPhone was manufactured on June 28th of 2011. On that date, the latest version of iOS at the time was 4.2.8. So by the time the phone was purchased, it was August of 2011 according to the website. So whoever purchased this phone would have never updated it and probably used a case and maybe used the phone for a few days, if not at all. The ports are clean as well as the speaker grills. I don't know how people come to buy a brand new iPhone for $699 and then basically never use it. The iPhone was supported all the way up to iOS 7.1.2, which was released in June of 2014. Now, iOS 7 is pretty slow on the iPhone 4, with the animations taking just a little bit longer than usual and the app loading is longer. But at least it's not as bad as the iPhone 4S running iOS 9.3.5. The camera of this phone was a boost from the 3GS with a 5 megapixel sensor on the rear. It has a decent aperture and took pretty good photos for 2011. The front-facing camera, well, it's a front-facing camera. It's only 0.3 megapixels and that's all there is to it. At the time, the front-facing camera was not intended for selfies, but for the new FaceTime feature that Apple implemented into the iPhone 4. Here are photos of the rear camera and the front-facing camera that I took as the sun was beginning to set. As you can see, the front-facing camera was a lot more noisy than the rear. Gaming on this phone was okay with Apple advertising the phone to have console gaming quality, which was nice. Gyroscope, which the iPhone 4 was first to have, was great since games were becoming more interactive with the user. The gyroscope, you can play various games better like Temple Run and racing games. Now, I'm not really good at Temple Run, not only because I haven't played in 5 years, but also because I'm looking at the display on my camera, which is showing the display of the iPhone. But I managed it pretty well. So in the end, this phone was very reliable and lasted for almost 5 years. Taking all into consideration, this phone was the first big step for Apple in making the iPhone what it is like today. The iPhone 4 has some features that look into the future of the iPhone and for what Apple might have in store for us. If you know what I mean, Apple knows that if they innovate but still keep their Apple way, then it will actually turn out. Now, I know some people get irritated about Apple not being innovative enough, but Apple is a more independent company with their products and support. Also, if you still use the iPhone 4, which I hope you aren't unless it's just for fun or nostalgia, you can still take it into the Apple Store if you ever have a problem with it. But you do have to update it to the latest version for Apple to do things with the phone, like troubleshooting and software, stuff like that. And they probably don't offer screen replacements for the iPhone 4 since it's pretty old now. Although the iPhone 4 is really modular, so fixing it won't be a problem, assuming you aren't afraid to get into a phone. For me, with this phone, I won't be planning on taking it into Apple for probably ever because I know how to fix this phone and troubleshoot it. Plus, this iPhone 4, it's $117, so I'm going to keep it nice. So tell me, what do you think about the iPhone 4? Have you ever had one before? If so, did you wait for the Verizon or the white version to come out? Or did you buy it late or just collect it like me? Leave it down in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this little video on the iPhone 4, although I think it's long now, 8 minutes. If so, consider liking and subscribing. This is my first scripted video because I didn't do so well with the last video without a script. You learn as you go, I guess. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.